Elbaf is the strongest country in the world, and Imo and the Gorosei seem to fear the power of its great warriors. And Elbaf is the beginning of the endgame and has been on our minds since the Little Garden, where Luffy and Usopp learned about the land of the giants. And yet, something feels off. Why do we know so little about Elbaf, even though the story of One Piece has been running for such a long time? Oda made sure that the beginning of this arc raises more questions than answers. But now that the real Sun God has returned to Elbaf, the island will undergo drastic changes, and the Gorosei fear that. Not only that, Elbaf could also reveal to us why Usopp's parents ended up in Syrup Village and how Shanks knew he would find Yasopp there. In fact, I think Shanks went to Elbaf after Roger died to train his abilities and become the powerhouse and unstoppable force he is today. If you think I'm talking nonsense, I will explain why all of this could happen and why Oda had planned this element of the story for a long time. I will also reveal how Shanks learned about the Nika Nika No Mi at the end of the video. So let's begin by quickly breaking down what the latest chapters have revealed to us and why all of this ties into what I just told you. If you are in search of fresh theories about your favorite manga, then get ready for a tainted take on One Piece. But before we begin, a word from our sponsor. Just kidding. There's no sponsor, but you could sponsor me with a like on this video and your subscription so you won't miss out on future uploads. Thank you very much, and let's move on. Everyone and their mothers have been talking about absinth in the past few weeks. The giants also call it the Green Fairy, and apparently there's a chance it will make you hallucinate. That's why many people thought Nami was hallucinating all the stuff happening in chapter 1127. Chapter 1128 shed some new light on this though. It made sense to consider hallucinations, especially when you take into account that nothing seemed consistent in 1127. But there are inconsistencies in 1128 too. Zoro running off 2 times and actually finding his way? Or why is Sanji holding Nami on top of the castle and jumping down to the other guys when they were all together in the chapter before? The community has already pointed out the changing weapons, wrong attack names and other confusing things in 1126, but can all of this really be attributed to absinth? I don't think so. Oda just wants to toy with us. In my opinion, someone with devil fruit powers is having fun with our OG crew members, and has put it in some sort of Lego playground environment. Well, that was what I wrote in my original script. Turns out I was right about that. If only I could pump out videos faster, but if you don't believe me, check out my live reactions to the chapters, because I was saying it in there too. Anyway, I was also going to say that the inhabitants must be normal sized humans, but yes, this got confirmed as well now. The people we see might be living in this fake world for a long time already though. And I also think that Yasopp and his wife Banshina are from a place like this, but more on this later. For now, I want to address this guy. Who could that be? Personally, I think it would make sense if this giant is Loki, because in Norse mythology, he is considered a trickster and the god of mischief and chaos. I believe he possesses a devil fruit power that allows him to create realms in which he can alter reality, just like a god. Let's call it realm fruit for now. People in this realm are most likely in a semi-conscious state, which makes them perceive their surroundings as slightly altered from reality, to keep them inside this realm. It's basically a soft version of the Matrix. Loki is using these people as his playthings, but Luffy and his crew will end up ruining the place as usual. Well, they have already started this, to be fair. This also mirrors other arcs, where we've seen people living in false realities in Dressrosa with sugar turning people into toys, or in Alabasta, where people live under the control of a warlord who acts as a hero. I think Loki is actually some kind of otaku, not in the sense of having an intense interest in anime, but more like a shut-in nerd who never leaves his house. Or castle in this case. I believe he might have established the religion of a false sun god not only within his castle, where I suspect he has created more worlds like the one the Straw Hats escaped from, but also across the entirety of Elbaf. But what makes me believe that? Well, first of all, as Vegapunk pointed out in chapter 1114, the legendary sun god Nika is a figure known from the fables of Elbaf, and just like him, Joy Boy fought with a stretchy and elastic body. So, through those fables of Elbaf, the people there should know that their god is a crazy rubberman. And indeed, in chapter 1111, Dory and Broggy tell Luffy that people in Elbaf tell tales about a god who looks like him, and somehow they ended up worshipping him as the sun. They hold the Winter Solstice Festival in his honor to celebrate the death and rebirth of the sun. It is said that afterwards, the sun's warmth will return to end the winter season. But where does the association between Nika and the sun come from in the first place? Is it because he wants to free the slaves from their oppressive masters, thereby bringing light and happiness back into their lives? I think that might be exactly it. And yet, this guy is cosplaying as Nika ordered on Wish and puts these humans in a fake world, holding them imprisoned without their knowing even. If he truly is Loki, then this could indicate that he doesn't really care about governing Elbaf, and this leads to several problems. In my opinion, there are several factions on Elbaf with different belief systems, and Loki, with his lack of leadership, could be the one responsible for the division. Remember, the world government fears an all-out escalation with Elbaf for a reason. The giants are forced to be reckoned with, and if the different giants races and factions ever banded together to fight Emu and their puppets, it would pose an unimaginable threat. Since the involvement of Mother Karma and her influence on the giants, or perhaps even earlier, the world government may have found a way to either control Loki, keeping him isolated in his castle, which would lead to growing unrest among the different giant factions, or actively drive a wedge between the factions to achieve the same result while Loki is busy playing his RPG games. But that leaves us with another question. Throughout history, and even today, people and nations have fought over a question of who the real god is, and this could literally be the same problem on Elbaf. I think Loki has installed a false sun god in their society, one that speaks and makes decisions on his behalf. Some factions believe in this false god, while others still remember the real Nika. In my opinion, this false sun god is Pandora, the homie that Mother Carmel created from the flames of Elbaf village. It's possible that after Big Mom enjoyed the caramel flavor, well, it's possible that Pandora left what would later become Whole Cake Island and returned to Elbaf. Loki himself was still a newborn at this time, but his parents might have given him Pandora as a pet. As Loki grew older, he may have seen Pandora as the perfect solution to his problems, allowing him to indulge in his hobbies and games while this so-called new sun god took over ruling. In my view, this is why Dory and Brocky want to bring Luffy to Elbaf, to show the people that the real sun god Nika has returned. Oh, that's a lot of headcanon, no? Maybe, but it's possible. The last time we saw Pandora was when Mother Carmel was talking to Cypherpole. When she created Pandora, Mother Carmel told the giants it wasn't her who did it, but the sun god who calmed the disaster. Oh, and look at this beautiful swirl we see when Pandora is being created. Another point for my swirl theory, I guess. Anyway, maybe Loki has installed false gods like this all over Elbaf. The sun, in my opinion, will end up on Nami's side though, making her a smaller version of Big Mom, as she is winning Zeus and Pandora. But since I mentioned Big Mom having a snack, as I already mentioned, there might be different realms all over Elbaf, or maybe even in Loki's castle mirroring the realms in Norse mythology. There we have 9 of them: Asgard, Vanaheim, Midgard, Jotunheim, Alfheim, Svartalfheim, Muspelheim, Nilfheim and Helheim. I do you a favor and not break down all of these. If you're truly interested in the topic, there are plenty of videos on YouTube. All you need to know is that these realms are home to different races: gods, humans, dwarves, all kinds of giants and so on. I think the place Destroyers left when crashing through the glass mirrors Midgard, the realm of humans. But there might be other realms too. We do know that there are giants like the Yeti brothers, who are double the size of regular giants standing at 42 meters high. In comparison, Oz was 76 meters high. This race of giants most likely lives in the One Piece equivalent of Niflheim, since Niflheim is a realm of ice and fog. Other zones could be places of fire or located beneath the roots of the giant tree. These realms may have been created by Loki and his ancestors to more easily govern the different factions of giants. But how exactly would they create zones like this all over Elbaf, with a devil fruit power that would be lost upon the death of the fruit's wielder? Well, this might be a hard pill to swallow, but Big Mom was basically the foreshadowing of what's to come. Oda keeps mirroring things in One Piece. We first get a small version and then the big one. That's old news. So this time Big Mom eating Mother Carmel might have been another one of these events. What if the power of that, how I call it, realm fruit is passed from one family member to another by, well, eating certain parts of whoever holds the power of that fruit? Oh, you mean like in Attack on Titan? Oh yes, that's a good comparison. And it's funny because that was about giants as well. In general though, giants eating humans is an old trope in world history that can be found in many ancient myths or stories. The Cyclops in Homer's Odyssey, the Nephilim who are basically the giants of the Bible, and of course in Norse mythology, the Jotnar, also giants, were often described as human eaters. There also is a very famous painting by Francisco Goya. In it we see Saturn, yes, Saturn, devouring his son. This goes back to Greek myths and is pretty disgusting, but yeah, eating each other seemed to be a thing. In this case though, it would be giants consuming parts of other giants. I know it's a rough topic, but I'm not the one who started this. Oda was. So in order to keep the rams running, members of the royal family might be doing something like that. We know it must be possible for exactly 3 reasons. First of all, Big Mom ate Mother Carmel and inherited her powers, so there must be a body part that can be consumed to gain the devil fruit's power. Since she ate the whole body though, we need to dig deeper. Vegapunk managed to recreate devil fruit powers via the lineage factor. We know there are several devil fruit users whose powers are being wielded by a second person. The lineage factor in One Piece is like DNA, so it can be found throughout the whole body. We could assume that a piece of skin would be enough to replicate the ability, but I don't think so. I believe that beside the green blood, Vegapunk also managed to replicate either the brain or the heart. The reason why I think this is because when Blackbeard took Whitebeard's power, they threw a blanket over good old daddy here, so no one including us could see the secret behind the trick. When they put down the blanket, people stated the Whitebeard still looks the same and no visible difference could be seen. But here's the catch, his brain and heart might have been exposed. I know it sounds disgusting, but Blackbeard might have consumed either both or one of those to gain Whitebeard's power. Ew! Right, but there is another topic that makes Loki look bad. As you know, Lola was originally arranged to marry Loki. Keep in mind that this dude is already 63 years old in the present timeline. Ew! Hey, we don't judge here. Anyway, after Lola ran away, Big Mom tried to slip in Chiffon instead, but the giants noticed that she wasn't Lola and declined. Unable to find a bride to this day, he might have started kidnapping women, but they all refused him. This might have led to an uproar among the people of Elbaf. There are several reasons why I think that might be the case. First of all, the first chapter where we see Elbaf is chapter 866. In it, we learn about Big Mom's past. Coincidentally, the cover story of this chapter shows Cavendish, the prince of the bourgeois kingdom, and he is so popular that all the young ladies there are not getting married because they adore him so much. This is the polar opposite of what is happening with Loki. Lola of all people. Lola, the one who made wedding proposals to anything that breathes, rejected this guy, and in my opinion, many others do too. Also, coincidentally, now that we've reached Elbaf, we have the cover story of Yamato telling us about missing girls in Kuri. I am not saying these girls are being kidnapped by Loki, no, but I do think those are hints from Oda. But I'm not done yet. In an older theory of mine, I talked about frost giants in the Florian Triangle. Actually, it was the second video I made, and I think it's still holding up very well. In it, I talk about the Ginnungagap. Dare I say, up to this point to my knowledge, I was the first One Piece YouTuber who ever mentioned this.
Oh, stop bragging!
I'm not!
You are! Arrogant prick!
Anyway, the Ginnungagap is a gaping abyss in Norse mythology that was located between the fires of Muspelheim and the eyes of Niflheim. And guess what was born out of the Ginnungagap?
Ginnungagap man?
What? Well, I guess you could call him that, but actually his name was Ymir, the father of all giants, and according to Norse mythology, the first living being. Ymir the frost giant was also the father of all other giants, and Oda, that smart old fox, has already implemented something very similar earlier in One Piece. Punk Hazard is basically a small version of all of this, because we got Niflheim, Muspelheim, and in the middle of it, the Ginnungagap. And what else do we have on Punk Hazard? That's right, frost giants, the Yeti Cool brothers. But there is more. Children who were experimented on by Caesar Clown to turn them into giants. were also part of this island. So we have a small version of the Ginnungagap and giants who are being created. And that's not everything. Those kids were kidnapped too. So the whole of Punk Hazard will be the mirror for Elbaf if I'm right. Because, as I mentioned, I think we will soon hear about kidnappings on Elbaf too. We also have a faction that is being misled on Punk Hazard. Brownbeard and his crew are being used and betrayed by Caesar Clown, just as Loki might do that with his own people. Caesar was also holding the children hostage and experimented on them while acting like he was being nice. In my opinion, that's not much different from using humans as playthings in the Lego world. Did you know that in Norse mythology, Loki's full name is Loki Laufeyarson? This basically means Loki, son of Laufey, as Laufey is the name of Loki's mother. Get it? Laufey? Luffy? Luffy? Do with that what you want. Dory and Broggy are the leaders of the giant warrior pirates. Before them it was Ja Rule and Jorul. And they were all firm believers in the real sun god Nika, as seen in chapter 1106, where they jump off their ship and say, "We are here to pick up the sun god." They had seen Luffy's appearance and bounty poster and recognized him as Nika. This might also be why they haven't arrived on Elbaf yet. Loki may have purposefully separated them from Luffy. He likely heard about the arrival of the real sun god as well, and to maintain his peace, he put Luffy in his Lego world to use him as a toy, preventing him from disrupting things. I'm certain that an internal struggle may await us once the giant warrior pirates return to Elbaf. But this aside, we know that Shanks went his own way after Buggy refused his proposal to work together following Roger's execution. This happened 24 years ago, when Shanks was 15 years old. I believe that after the events in Loketown, Shanks must have gone to Elbaf. Divine Departure is an attack Roger used, and I think Shanks wanted to become strong enough to wield Roger's techniques as well. What better place than Elbaf to learn such a powerful move? Hakoku Sovereignty, the impressive attack performed by Dory and Broggy, may inherit a technique similar to Divine Departure. But that wasn't Shanks' only reason for coming to Elbaf. I also believe he went there seeking answers. Roger must have given him a hint before they parted ways, and this hint was likely connected to the sun god Nika. What better place than Elbaf could have existed for Shanks to research this? This is where Shanks learned about the Gomu Gomu No Mi.
How exactly,
Well, only 3 years after Roger's execution, Robin left O'Hara, and shortly after that, Saul and the Giants retrieved all the knowledge the O'Hara scholars had thrown into the sea to keep it safe. These books must have been a great source of knowledge for Shanks, eventually leading him to form a crew and start searching for the Devil Fruit. This is also why Shanks is stationed in Elbaf. He has a good relationship with the giant warrior pirates, possibly because he lived there for quite a while. This might also explain how Shanks learned about Yasopp. I know it sounds speculative, but I think Yasopp, his wife, or both of them, might have lived on Elbaf, maybe even in one of Loki's Lego worlds, and one day managed to escape, fleeing to the East Blue. Shanks must have heard about that amazing sniper while on Elbaf and learned where he had escaped to. That's why he went looking for him in Syrup Village. This is also why Banshita didn't hold any grudge against Yasopp for leaving her and Usopp. Shanks likely explained that he had a plan to save the world from slavery and imprisonment by bringing back the sun god Nika, and needed Yasopp for this quest. As people who had once been held captive in such a realm, they understood the importance of the task. Oh, and one last thing.
More ad cannon!
I think Sniper Island might actually be the name of the part of Elbaf where Yasopp is from. Keep in mind, Usopp's lies have a tendency to come true again and again, and for those skeptics out there who say that's not true, Oda himself confirmed this in this color spread. Just look at Usopp's pants. They literally read, "Lie turns into reality." If you also think Sniper Island could be on Elbaf, leave me a comment below. And if you don't, then tell me where you think it might be. Just don't say it's in our hearts, okay? Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Here are some more great theories for you to check out.
Sogeki no shima kara kita otoko. Sole di